Hi, everyone. Welcome to this amazing panel with Annie Jackson and Mia Davis of Credo. I'm Priya Rao. I'm the executive editor at Glossy, and I know Annie and Mia very well and know what they're doing in the beauty space. And I know you're going to enjoy their thoughts, not just on cannabis, but all things clean beauty and where the beauty industry is going. So with that, if you guys have any questions over the course of this conversation, please, we want to make this as conversational and interactive as possible. So throw your questions into the chat and we'll be sure to get to those. So I guess to get started, Annie, I'd love to start with you. You're one of the co-founders and COOs of Credo. You had this brilliant idea many years ago. And I'm just wondering, how has your approach to clean maybe fueled this conversation with CBD and with cannabis? I'm wondering what your approach to clean was in the early days, what it is now, and how that maybe created this conversation that we're seeing so much of those last 2 days.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. I don't think our approach has actually changed. What has changed are the in the marketplace today, for sure. Our approach to clean has always been the same, to be very transparent about safety, sourcing, sustainability, and how these companies are good stewards and ethically running their businesses. So I think the awesome thing about clean beauty is Shashi Batra, who is my co-founder and friend and mentor, his vision was Credo, and he really drew parallels from food and the organic food movement of like 20 years ago, and really just putting together the pieces of the puzzle that, people are actually empowered by information, and they want to know about the things that they're consuming, particularly in food, and if it affects their health. And so his idea was that if we could be more transparent about beauty, why shouldn't we? And can we find brands in this space that are efficaciously and beautifully creating products in a really conscientious way? And so I think the awesome thing that clean beauty has done for either cannabis or any other plant ingredient is just kind of shed light on natural plants, the power of plants. There's thousands of years of research on plants. You don't need clinical studies to prove what plants can do for you. And I think it's made them cool. And it's kind of taken us back to where we need to be before the chemical revolution, and talking about the power of plants and how they can be efficacious, and fight that misconception that clean beauty or natural beauty can't be effective, because that's no longer the case, for sure.
I'm wondering from both of your perspectives, right now I feel like we are I've been covering clean for a while, clean beauty. Obviously, you guys have been in the space for a while. And I'm just wondering, this must have not been, it sounds like it may have been easy, Annie, but this seems to be like, it's a long road, what's real here? Like we're talking about, getting the consumer, getting people to want this information, to crave this information. And within COVID, I just think that this is the time. So will you talk a little bit about the mainstreaming of this and how maybe the customer changed, the appetite for this information has changed? Maybe we're all on our phones even that much more than we were yesterday than we are today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this definitely, I would not classify this as easy by any means. If you talk to any brand founder, they would also agree. But I think, as a merchant, because Mia brings with her so much expertise, I come from the merchant space, and it's been the most incredible, wild, awesome ride, because, to find these passionate founders conscientiously formulating products, really rooted in sustainability, and really wanting to create products the right way and putting the empowerment in the consumer's hands is incredibly exciting. I think what's been harder is when we started Credo and opened our first store in 2015, for 2 solid years, we were asked by editors or just, in general about this niche or this trend, clean beauty. And, let me just tell you, when you are dedicating, the 20 hours a day, 7 days a week to a niche, that's not really a great business plan. So we really believed it had legs. And, if you think about the brand development, product development, steps forward in packaging sustainability that we're starting to see, it's been incredible, and it's been incredible the pace at which it's actually transpired. If I look back on the assortment of brands we had when we opened our San Francisco store, we had about 60 brands in 2015. Fast forward to today, we have 135 brands, and probably 20 of those were from that original 2015 crew. And the landscape has completely changed. And the way that these brands are positioned, the efficaciousness of the products, the background of the founders, it's like nothing I've ever seen before as a merchant. And as you can see from my face, I've been doing this a while.
From your perspective, what do you think, why do you think the timing is right? Like, I'm not just talking about COVID, I'm talking about maybe the last year, 2 years, 3 years. Not only do customers have this information, see that the formulas are just as good, but it seems like the environmental responsibility piece is also matching that. Will you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great question, and you're hitting on something that's incredibly important to Credo, and I would argue to the urgency of now, and just all of these things that are kind of feeling a little overwhelming as we have, forest fires burning and an unbelievable consumer waste and recycling conundrum that we have to work together to address. It can feel a little overwhelming, but and it is, so big challenges. But on the flip side, we are really seeing a lot of demand for more innovative solutions and for mission-based businesses, and for really defining clean and defining what you stand for in the consumer product space. And, I think to answer part of the original question that you threw to Annie and then segued over here, like why and what was the impetus of this? I do think that it goes back to food and awareness about how you grow food matters, not just to the environment out there, but to the environment here. Like, we are not separate from the environment. We are part of the environment. So when we're using pesticides, herbicides, genetically modified organisms out in the field, what is the impact on human health and on others up and down the food chain, wildlife? And that is an awareness that I think has been growing over the last several decades. I know when I started the work in clean beauty, it was more around safety and natural and eco. Those are absolutely still values and pillars of our definition of clean. But it has evolved as we've gotten to think about this in a little bit more of a holistic way. So for Credo, our definition of clean, I always think of it as a Venn diagram, with the Credo clean standard in the middle of these like overlapping orbs, and safety and source and sustainability and ethics are all these orbs that define clean for us. And they're all sitting in a realm or like a bigger circle of transparency, because you can't talk about any one of those things if you don't have transparency. You're not being honest about your supply chain and what's really going on. So, safety is about the inherent hazard of a material or the risk with the way that you're interacting with that ingredient. Source is about where it's from. Is it natural? Is it naturally derived? Is it synthetic? Sustainability is, of course, about how it's grown or harvested or made. And ethics is about it's a big one, and it's perhaps the hardest one to really put your finger on in a complex supply chain like beauty or like the cannabis industry. But were people paid a fair living wage when they grew this? If animal-derived ingredients were used, were they treated humanely? So that's how we see the ethics bucket. And we always say when we're working with our brand partners to operationalize clean, it's not that you're going to check every single box and hit it out of the park on all of these orbs for every ingredient for your product, but you absolutely have to be asking these hard questions of your ingredient supply chain and of your product supply chain in order to walk the walk on clean. And it's certainly true for us at Credo for clean beauty, and it applies, of course, to the products that we sell that contain hemp extract as well.
Right.
Also, the game has changed for founders. To Mia's point, all of those facets are really important now, and it's very important to the customer. So as a founder, I think what we found in the early part of this space was not a lot of understanding of how a founder needs to be vetting the ingredients they're getting from their suppliers and what they should be asking for. And so it's almost like the qualifications to be in this game as a founder now have raised quite a bit, because you really have to understand and really ask a lot of questions of your suppliers and make sure that you understand the source of things, the safety of things, and almost, have a little bit of a background in what you're trying to develop, but also develop to a certain standard. I can tell you that of the 60 some odd brand submissions we probably get a month, 58 of them don't comply with our restricted substance list. And when you talk to these founders and just to get a level set understanding, just to kind of, feel like you're pushing the space forward, they're like, oh, okay, wow, I didn't realize that. So I think it's interesting too. You can't just create a product anymore. You really have to be in it for the right reasons and be willing to learn.
So Annie, you touched on something that I wanted to talk about, because, obviously we're in beauty, we're in wellness, like these are very sexy, very enticing categories to be in as a founder or as a brand. And those buzzwords, Mia, you mentioned a second ago, I know they're not buzzwords for y'all, but like transparency in beauty, authenticity in beauty, like what does that mean? So how do you think that like the implications of, having such strict standards and then also helping brands adhere to them or build to that, like whether they're a partner, whether or not, is part of your strategy?
Yeah, you're right. So, we hear, oh, clean. Well, does it even mean anything? Does it have a meaning? And the answer is, obviously, it depends on who you're talking to. There's no official legal definition for the vast majority of the terms that we use in this industry.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that they don't have the potential to have great meaning. And so what we have done at Credo is to absolutely define it using those pillars that I just outlined. But we have a clean standard that is 28 pages long that all of our brand founders have to initial every page and sign, saying that they fully understand and that they will participate in our brand consortium calls. We have a bunch of connection, a bunch of research, whether it's with their merchant on the merchandising team, with me, with Annie. So there's really no excuse, and there's every opportunity for them to become very engaged and take like a little mini crash course on supply chain and on quality and on like the kind of documentation that you should be asking for from your ingredient suppliers or your contract manufacturers. So clean has it has a meaning down to a one-line definition, a Venn diagram, and then a really strong operating guideline for all of our brand partners. And we really want and hope that others like our definition and adopt it, even if they don't partner with or sell at Credo, and certainly truly open to dialogue around that if something's missing or something needs to be fleshed out more, because we're like absolutely in this to move the industry in the right way and to lift all boats. And if we're speaking different languages around clean, or if clean doesn't mean anything over here, but it means a lot to us, then it waters down all the work that we're doing and all that our brand partners are doing. So we get the need for a strong definition for everybody.
Yeah. And it's why we exist. I mean, really, that's why Credo exists. And it's not, for us, it's not about keeping this information to ourselves. We'll talk to anybody. They don't have to even be at Credo. So, I think that clean standard, that 28-page document, is not something that we threw at our brand partners and said, good luck, everybody. Talk to you in 18 months when we want to put this into action. It's very much a collaboration, a sharing of ideas, working together, answering questions. And, Mia and I aren't the end all be all, like, this is how it's going to go. It is very much like a brain trust of people working together to try and affect positive change in the beauty industry that needs to happen so badly. So I think with everything that we've done, the sustainable packaging guidelines would be a great example that we just launched in April. Again, it's been very much like, okay, guys, here's the roadmap. This is what we're working towards, and we're going to get there together. This is not to freak anyone out or scare anyone or raise the bar even higher. It's because we're still working towards positive change, and this is a huge part of it. And so we're going to get there together, and we're going to talk a lot and answer questions and work together.
Right. Annie, how would you say that extends to, obviously your partnership with Ulta, which is coming up in a big way, and a big retailer. So when you think about, obviously Credo has this, jewel box of a standard and really a stringent guidelines. But then, this is the message is going to be blown out even bigger online and in stores, all of the above. And I'm just wondering, like, how do you kind of keep that tight, right? And make sure that that message is distilled every time properly in such a big way.
Yeah, well, the collaboration with Ulta is incredible. No doubt about it. Huge opportunity for us at Credo and for our brand partners. But what Mia was just saying about the pillars or the elements that make up the Venn diagram, if you will, it's not about a brand checking every box per se in equal measure. It's about meeting the customer where they are and providing better options for her in a space that she's really invested in from a health standpoint and our planet's health. So for us, yes, we have very high standards and a ton of brands that meet those standards. So it's not like this is an insurmountable ask. So in the Ulta environment, it's incredible because it means that they're open-minded and trying to bring options to their guest that people are asking for now. And so it's all about just opening up the conversation and meeting the customer where she is. And I think, it's an incredibly positive step forward in the space because the more the merrier. Like, as Mia was saying, like, we want to lift all boats. This is not just for us to be alone on an island. It is for everyone to be involved and to bring these brands to a bigger platform so customers can find them. So, and I think it also instigates change with conventional brands. I don't think anyone out there is like, ooh, let's make a brand with a bunch of harmful ingredients that are bad for the environment that, no one can recycle and aren't sustainable. Nobody's doing that. That is not the intention of anyone. I think it's brought a lot of education to people, brands, brand founders, contract manufacturers, and everyone's thinking about creating products in a different way.
Yeah. How do you think
that? Can I add one thing?
Oh, of course.
One of the great things about Credo, we're called Credo, right? And the way that Shashi and Annie started the company and what has been absolutely built into the DNA of this company is that no matter how we grow, and we're excited to be growing and want to keep growing, and no matter who we partner with, including Ulta, the clean standard and the mission is absolutely inseparable from who Credo is. It's not, it's never going to be diluted. It's only going to become stronger. So Ulta recognized that, and there's zero push in any from anyone on any of us to dilute anything we're doing. So with this partnership, they are showing that Credo is really leading clean. They didn't want to reinvent the wheel. They wanted to show that here is a high bar. We also, we being Ulta in this situation, like, we have all this other great stuff and all this other wonderful experience for our guests. And now we have this other partnership and this other layer. So to get at your question on, like, how do we make sure that this doesn't kind of, I think, get diluted, or how do we convey the clean message in a much, just literally so much bigger space? I think that they want to do that. They have every interest in keeping the Credo clean standard very integral to that partnership. So that's really nice.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about, obviously, this specifically to cannabis? Because, obviously there's different ways to cultivate this ingredient, different ways that brands are incorporating it. And it seems like, obviously, within Credo, there's a bunch of boxes to check in that 28-page document. And additionally, you might also incorporate CBD or CBG. So will you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. So we love cannabis as an agricultural ingredient. It's beautiful. We admire the plant, respect the plant, and are grateful for all that it's offered humanity for thousands of years, and think that it's a really interesting, relatively buzzy, new old ingredient, right? So we're excited about the science. We've written some blogs about it, spoken about it with our brands and, on the Instagram Live and whatnot. We do see it as a special ingredient, and yet, of course, it has to comply with everything else that we're doing. So it's not special in any way that it's gotten, any kind of luxury pass on anything. It's more the opposite of just doing our extra due diligence to say, Credo's committed to transparency around this ingredient in particular. We're going to need to see some data to make sure that your THC levels are, exactly where they need to be. Make sure that you're going through, in addition to all these other restricted substances and criteria with the Credo Clean Standard, we want to know more about your extraction process. If you say you're full spectrum versus broad spectrum versus extract or isolate, like, Tell us why. What does that mean to you? Does it comply with this definition? We don't want brands randomly writing like, you know, CBD from like, you know, this special strain that was harvested in October under a full moon on their ingredient list. We want it to be, you know, cannabis sativa extract. We really believe in INCI, which is the International Nomenclature of Cosmetic Ingredients, as the right way to convey what your ingredients are on the label so that we can have accuracy and consistency across products. If you want in your marketing copy to talk about the lengths that you went to grow organically and to, you know, not use any harsh solvents for your extraction process, we want that information too. It just doesn't belong on the ingredient label. So those are just a few ways that we have made sure that we are doing our due diligence, making sure that, you know, the brands that we're working with are compliant, that our customer is getting exactly what they expect, and that they can learn more about this really awesome ingredient and compare in a more like apples to apples way, instead of saying like, oh, this product has, you know, 1 million milligrams of CBD and this one seems to only have 75, but they're priced the same. And this one says this on the ingredient label and this one says this. Is this the same plant? Is this the same animal? We're trying to help really tell that story in a really accurate way.
And from a merchandising standpoint, I think, you know, not to sound like a jaded beauty buyer, I promise, but you know, it's a buzzy word. And so it's, you know, marketing, and it is very popular right now. But I think the brands that we carry at Credo aren't hanging their hat necessarily on this one ingredient. And that's what we really love about what they're doing. They consider it an integral part of how they're creating products, but, you know, they are positioned in a much more holistic way. And I think it's smart of them, because when, you know, if we move on from CBD and we're all about bakuchiol in 6 months and that's all we're talking about, these brands still have a reason for being. They're very solidly positioned on their own with a very robust ingredient story. So they don't just hang their hat on that one thing, which I think is important in anything that you develop.
Annie, on that note, you know, I think you know, when I first started covering CBD, I guess like 2 or 2.5 years ago, I feel like everyone was like, you had to be a CBD brand if you sold CBD products. Now we're seeing brands who kind of dabble in CBD, who maybe not be a CBD only brand, incorporate other ingredients. You know, what's the right answer here? Because I think, you know, we're at the Luxury Meets Cannabis Conference, right?
Yeah.
Virtually. But, you know, do you think the onus that you have to be CBD through and through still sticks?
I think it depends on what the product is, because if you're using CBD in an efficacious way for the products that you're creating, that's where it's really dependent. Like for our customer, they are really savvy about ingredients, and they want to know why it's in there and what it does for their skin. So if you take like a Wildcat, for example, they don't have it all throughout everything, just certain products. And it's because they've created that product in that way, and that ingredient is efficacious and has a reason for being in there. So I don't think there is a right or wrong answer. I think it's about using the ingredient in a really genuine way.
Right. We just have a few more minutes, but I have like so much more to talk to y'all about as usual. But I'm wondering about the other big trends and like table stakes discussions we're having right now, whether it be inclusivity. You mentioned sustainability a second ago, Mia and Annie. You know, I'm wondering if you're seeing that the brands that maybe are in the clean space are also propelling these conversations. I know, Annie, one of my favorite quotes of all times in a Glossy story was that clean beauty is too white. Like, what does that say about these other really big discussions we're having when it comes to what's important to today's customer?
Yeah, I mean, I think having, and I've said this a million times, diversity in shade range it's not just saying that. I mean, imagine standing in a store, Priya, and have someone say to you, I'm sorry, we have nothing here for you. I can't match your skin. Yeah, that's so not okay. And it affects a person more than just like, oh, okay, I'll go somewhere else. You walk out feeling bad. That's not okay. And it's not, you know, Credo is for everyone. And that is why we created this company. And we want to be welcoming to every single person in that store, in that city that is very diverse, with our very diverse staff. So We created a brand, and it's not to criticize other brands that couldn't. It was a significant financial investment to come out with 43 shades of foundation. But I think what I hope that it will do is be a sea change for the rest of the brand so that we can share information, talk about shade rankings, and have them have a better understanding of, okay, if I invest here, here is how that's going to return for my investment, because that's what it is. They're running a business and they're trying to stay alive. At the same time, they're not trying not to be inclusive. So I think it's there. If you think about the 135 brands at Credo, none of them are owned by huge corporations or private equity. These are all people bootstrapping it, working really hard and trying to develop products the right way. So to get into the very inclusive shade range is a big financial investment, but it is the right thing to do. So I think it's going to be the motivator, hopefully, or the tide that rolls in that changes everything for everyone. So we're very, very excited about it. It's very important to us.
One quick follow-up question, if I still have time, from your perspective, you said a lot of these brands are, business owners are they're juggling many different things. So when you look at the bigger pie, the bigger piece of where we are right now in the world, what do you think it is important, like as a brand founder, to prioritize, and how?
Well, for us, we, like I said, having Mia part of our team and leading the charge in terms of sustainability and creating products that are better for the planet is a huge part of what we're doing. If you look at the massive waste that beauty contributes to this planet, it's egregious. And we don't want to sit back and be a bystander. We want to affect change. So yes, we can do all these things that are important pillars to our business, offer diversity and complexion and clean ingredients and all of that. But if people are still creating products in double-walled virgin plastic, we've done nothing to make a positive impact on this planet. And the work that Mia has done around our sustainable packaging guidelines is something that we're going to work on for years to come. And that is probably one of the most important North Stars to Credo right now. I don't know if you want to add.
Yeah, I mean, we could have a whole separate discussion on it. It's such a huge conversation, but there's so many parallels to everything that people, no matter what brand you have here today and at this conference, packaging applies to you. So we're always looking for allies in the journey to be more sustainable. There is no silver bullet. There is no perfectly sustainable packaging, but there's a lot of greenwashing and a lot of misinformation. And we're always happy to link arms, even if you're not selling at Credo, to learn more about that. And yeah, Annie just answered one of the really important questions in the chat around our commitment to diversification and inclusion. It's not just with the EXA line. We take it very, very seriously and have launched a Credo for Change mentorship program. And we've taken the 15% pledge. So on all things, Black Lives Matter, sustainability, et cetera, we're really trying to be very honest about where we're at and be very transparent about that journey and take actual meaningful steps and be very public about that journey.
Guys, I would definitely ask another question, but I think I might get called away from the backstage audience. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Mia. Thank you, Annie, for being
here.
Thank you. And if you have any more questions, please reach out to us directly or, everybody else at LMCC. So thanks again.
Thanks, Priya.
Bye. Bye.